Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, the Trust Factor Radio, and I am doing a special Local Business 2020. We are heading into the year 2020, but we also want to talk about the Vision 2020 for the future and what that means for local businesses. So I am interviewing and having discussions with some local marketers that I have been talking with over the years to give their opinion of what is most important moving into this new decade. And today I have Ted Bigham on with me from Kow Abundance. Ted, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Neil. I appreciate you having me.
Well, for our audience, give them a quick 30-second background into yourself, your company, and how you got into this business.
Yeah, absolutely. So 30 seconds, start the clock. I own Kow Abundant in Columbus, Ohio. It's an SEO company that focuses on Google Ads management, SEO management, and social media management. And we focus primarily on local businesses. So we want to help local businesses all we can. We have a number of different verticals that we work on, and we just love helping local people and kind of bringing more to the community as well.
Awesome. That was just 29 seconds. You
Heck yes. Heck yes. Nice.
All right. Well, local business is definitely where it is. They form the backbone of the whole GDP. They're putting people to work. They're selling stuff. We really want to help out the local businesses as much as we can. So briefly, Ted, give me the kind of explanation of what local SEO is and how it differs from a regular, just organic SEO.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think the answer is kind of in, the products that the local businesses are selling and how the large companies like Google and many others look to local businesses to answer the questions that people have. When people do searches, they're looking for maybe the best fish sandwich or best, local plumber, things like that. And Google does really rely heavily on local business to answer those questions. And that's where it is very important to have a great website that's user-friendly, that has good content, is up to date, also has, backlinks as well as internal links, to other pages on your site. There's just a lot of optimization that you can do as a local business owner that hopefully we'll kind of get into today.
Yeah, and I want to break a lot of these things down and talk about them individually. But what you said, Google, we've got to understand that. And I just watched that video that you sent me about the top websites in the world. And I always knew Google was number one, and it has been for quite some time. But I didn't realize just how much bigger they were than the likes of YouTube and Facebook. They have 88%, I think, of the market share when it comes to search. So, it's a word that everybody knows, just like Coca-Cola and McDonald's. It is the brand, which means search. So
it's amazing how, obviously big these sites are around the globe, and you never really know until you see those kind of statistics, how big like Facebook is versus Google and YouTube even. And, you think Amazon's in there too, but actually Amazon's not even in the top 10, which is amazing to think about. And so many people use that service, obviously. But Google is really a powerhouse when it comes to search. But remember, so was AOL, years ago. So things can change and do change. But Google definitely has a head start on like voice search and some other incredible technologies. So they'll be here for at least a little bit.
Well, we are familiar with many of the top websites, but watching that video, it really does open your eyes into, these sites that are just coming up. We think that YouTube, I don't know if it started, but really started gaining prominence. And I think it was about 2006, which is not that long ago. And same with Google. I think it was only 2005 when they just kind of exploded onto the market. But in recent years, we've had Facebook as well coming up, and now Instagram as one of the top websites in the world. And, I want to talk about some of these things and social signals and how important they are for ranking once we get into, some of those ranking factors. But
yeah, I mean, talking about those sites, the video we're talking about is from Data is Beautiful on YouTube. YouTube is the second most popular site in the world, which is amazing. It's more popular than Facebook. And actually, recently, Facebook has been losing traction, which is kind of interesting. It's been losing visitors, and Instagram has been gaining. So now Instagram is really neck and neck with Twitter. In fact, one of the there was a recent Twitter tag today was Instagram is down. So then people go over to Twitter, and that was just kind of funny. But in terms of the website's popularity, like I said, Amazon's not even in the top 10, but obviously there's a lot of transactions that go through Amazon, and Google is definitely the powerhouse here. And YouTube is surprisingly in a solid second.
Yeah, people want to get information, and video is becoming the way to get it, which is another lesson for local businesses out there. If they're not putting content out on those platforms, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, that's where the eyeballs are. That is where people are hanging out. So you want to make sure that your content is delivered on those platforms as well.
Yeah, but absolutely.
Let's look at the local search a little bit more deeply. Local is generally there's a few different things when we think about local. First of all, if I'm driving to a new city, which I took a tour of the East Coast over the summer. I spent a couple of months just traveling up and down the East Coast, which is great.
Very nice, yeah.
But when I got to a new area that I didn't know, and I'm hungry, I'm, opening my phone, I'm doing a voice search for, best burgers near me.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me how I can optimize my local website for that kind of customer.
Yeah, that's a great question. Voice search is one of the keys for future SEO, in particular moving into 2020 and even beyond. Voice search is up 9.5% from 2018, according to eMarketer, and 55% of households are expected to own a smart speaker by 2022. I don't know if that will come true. Maybe it will. Who knows? I have, like an Android phone, so that's kind of the speaker I have. But I do know quite a lot of people obviously have these like Alexa devices, and there's Google devices, Apple devices that are these smart speakers. And the whole reason behind this is because, why they're doing it is that it's a faster vehicle to sales, because phone calls can convert 10 to 15 times higher than web leads. And they also convert 30% faster than web leads. And when you're using like a smart speaker or voice search, that really is a driver for usually like a call. Somebody will say like, call local restaurant or order takeout or whatever it is. Oftentimes it's trying to say like, well, I know I want Chinese food. And just like you mentioned, if you're in a new area, it's like, just, call a good restaurant. Like I want some good Chinese food or something. And that's really like the power behind those kind of searches, and to be optimized for it as a local business is really important. So when you're optimizing the data that it pulls when people look up best burger, right? Like you said, that data is often pulled from like Yelp, or it could be Google reviews. So you want to make sure you're getting a lot of consistent and good reviews for your business on Google, on Yelp. You want to make sure that the data that is on there is, accurate, up to date. And if you can, for like bonus points, try and have your customers mention this is the best burger, or like say mention your burger, mention your experience. I mean, it even helps. I tell restaurants all the time to leave like a little card in with their order saying, if you like us, review us, just so they think about it and do it quickly. Make it easy for them. That's really a great key, is make it easy for your customer to leave a review.
Right, and reviews are so important. In fact, I think Moz said that they account for about 15% of the overall ranking on the map, reviews, and it is the rate of the review and the amount of reviews that you get in a time period. So maybe you've got 50 reviews. You went out and you asked all your clients to review you, and you got 50 reviews, which is great. It might be more than everybody else in your market, but if you stop getting reviews, it's going to count against you. And the companies that are getting reviews, even slowly, but they're continuing to get them, may rank above you. So you have to continually get reviews from your customers, and like you said, give them away to make it as easy as you can.
There's a Google review link generator, for example. WhiteSpark does that, so you can just go to WhiteSpark, look up like Google review WhiteSpark, and it will create an easy link that you can send out to people on social and all that stuff. And, remember, according to Google, 20% of all searches are voice searches. So it is growing. And I mean, that's definitely a lot of searches. But it's very positive to me as somebody who supports local businesses that Google is investing heavily in local business, because, it's about as much as 46% of voice searches are for local stuff. So they're definitely invested, Google and these big companies, in supporting local business, because that helps their bottom line too, which is makes me happy, basically. Like I just don't want to see, it just be Amazon or, just the big companies. I want the local guys to win too. And that's really important to make sure that things are optimized, because it's good to have, somebody fighting in your corner, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's look at the local search, because like you said, local business is really where these companies, Google especially, is putting a lot of time and effort, and it all is revolved around their map and the location. So,
yes.
Just like in real estate, location, that is what is really important to Google, for them to give the best results depending on the location of the searcher. And, what we've got to realize nowadays is that most of these searches from a local perspective are being done on a mobile phone from somebody that is, out there needing something right away, or at least that's growing. I'm not sure if it's more than the desktop.
Absolutely. I mean, from my local customers, I see generally the trend is like 65 to 85% of searches are mobile based. So that's a big number, and it surpassed desktop, for the local businesses that I work with, probably as of last year. Definitely into 2019, it was like, now it's mobile. And as soon as Google put that initiative to where it says mobile first indexing, which you've seen like on all, if you have a business website, they send you emails and say, we're doing mobile first indexing for your website. That really helped propel mobile as well, because they prioritize the mobile experience. And, the sites that have better usability, better mobile experience will be the winners. So optimize for mobile, absolutely, because I've even seen tablets gain market share now as well, which in the past for a long time, they were just kind of low percentages, maybe 3 or 5% at most. But recently I've seen as high as 15% for tablet use, which is pretty large. And I think that's growing as well. So people are kind of moving away from the conventional desktops even, other than, the people that might be working in an office or a cube or whatever. And then they get bored and they browse and, they're looking for takeout and local stuff and all that. So,
right. And it's dependent on the kind of search as well. Obviously, if you're looking for a local restaurant or something that you need immediately, oftentimes it is on the phone. If it's something that you need to do a little bit more research on, it might be a desktop. If you're looking for a doctor or a chiropractor or something like that, you might do it from the comfort of your home on a laptop. But I got some stats here. 80% of internet users own a smartphone, and they're accessing the internet via the smartphone. 70% of mobile customers who find a business online will act within 1 hour, which is really remarkable. And those are the people that are out and about. They are doing a search. They're needing a response right away so that they can take action. And that action oftentimes is just to pick up the phone and call the business to make an appointment or to purchase something, make an order. And 16% will use a mobile phone exclusively, and that number is going up to probably 20% in the next few years, which means they're not using a desktop at all. So definitely mobile is the way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mobile is definitely, everybody has a smartphone, like you're saying. 80% of these users have a smartphone, and it's just ubiquitous. Smartphones are everywhere, and now it's kind of moving toward more voice, because I think people are getting more comfortable with these technologies, and with that comfortability, they're starting to push the little microphone button and ask questions, and then it's also integrated in the cars and all that stuff. So it's easier also than to use voice search than to necessarily type stuff. And I think it's just a direction moving forward. Video is still very important, to get your message out there. And then podcasts too. Podcasts are great for businesses to look into and use. And they've been more accepted by traditional media and large media. Like Netflix has a podcast, Comedy Central, almost every major network, NBC, ABC have podcasts for their popular shows. So when years ago it was like, what is this podcast thing? The same thing applies with these technologies. They're starting to be well adapted and well used. And I do think for the most part, local business owners understand this. And because I get all the time, every day, calls from people, saying, I need to optimize my maps listing. I need to optimize, a website or all this stuff. How do I do that? Like maybe I'm not on Google or it's not looking right, but I know that I need to do this because, all my customers are using their phones or ordering food that way. So it's just moving that way even faster.
Right, and they're hearing this information on a podcast like this. They're realizing that this is where the future is. This is where they need to optimize if they don't want to get left behind. So they're coming to you and saying, "Hey, I need help with maps because I believe maps is the way of the future. That's how we get found in the local area." So Ted, help me out with my map listing.
Yeah, and with that, local businesses, they want to optimize. So I do recommend using services like Yext is one, Mo's Local. There's different services out there. Some services that work with SEO companies that enable voice search and work with Alexa and optimizing, Google Maps and Apple Maps, and all those different areas are very important. So I do recommend using some type of local citation, is what it's called, service, to make sure that your map listings are, where they should be. And, if you go to my website, there's a free SEO audit, and you can enter in your name, and we can figure out like basically what your local citations look like. But yeah, I would definitely recommend doing any kind of local citation update, because there's just so many services out there, and GPS. I work with a client, like developers in Columbus, Ohio, and they have, new developments that aren't even, they make the streets. So they don't even have streets yet on Google Map because they haven't taken new pictures yet. So we work with another company that is based in Cincinnati, and they take pictures. They have their own Google cars, and they're able to add the actual street views and locations onto the Google map, which if you rely just on Google, that can take a year. Some have said 2 years, like a long time. So that is really amazing. And, I remember when they first started with me, the company was saying, anyone that Googled their business, their property, just went to a Chinese restaurant, because that was what Google said where they were located, was some random Chinese restaurant, not far from them, but that's not, who they are. It's great if you want takeout, but it doesn't quite, relate for them. So aligning all these things is very important, and making sure people can find you easily and not get frustrated, because we rely so heavily on these technologies that when they do, fail or not work, we get very frustrated. And that's like, it's so frustrating when you're like Googling something and you drive there and it's closed. Oh man, that is just heartbreaking,
Well, that's when Google My Business really kicks in, because what I've heard and the statistics that are coming out is searchers aren't even making it to the business website anymore. They're strictly getting their information from the Google My Business page, and they're making decisions based on that, because really it's got everything that you need. If you click on a listing in Google My Business, it's going to tell you the hours of operation.
Yeah.
You're going to get driving directions to that place. You're instantly going to see the reputation of the place based on the reviews and the comments. And people are reading those comments. They're looking for, I think, 9 comments. They will read actually 9 comments or more on your Google My Business page before they actually make a decision to call you. So people are doing their research, but they're making decisions from the Google My Business listing instead of actually going to your website, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I'll say with the exception possibly of menus. Some restaurants have menus, or quite a few, but a lot of times you'll have to still go to the website for like a restaurant menu. And then they also use Uber Eats and all those other services as well for delivery. I actually am on the board of a restaurant technology group in Columbus, Ohio, and we focus on this stuff, and we work with large organizations, even like Chipotle and other businesses that we try to help as well. And so these businesses, really need help with optimizing on their menus and picking. They don't know really what to do. You might have seen it in a local restaurant. They can have like 5 tablets because it's kind of a mess still. And we are in the adolescence of many of these technologies still. I would say voice search is out of the toddler stage and into adolescence now. So that's better. There's still a lot of room to grow, but we're getting much better at it. And, Google and just even Apple, so, many of these companies are doing so well and constantly improving. But we're going through some growing pains still. So just make it easy for customers. That's the best I can say. And particularly, with like online payments. If you sell anything online, make it easy for customers, have different ways of paying, PayPal and other options. It's, basically like 32% of millennials use PayPal or they're comfortable with it.
Right. And
So
how about Venmo? Well, that's a new app that a lot of businesses have started using as well.
yeah, Venmo is another popular one. I think I've used Venmo with friends and stuff like that before, and it's another one of those payment type apps that works really well. And I mean, 67% of millennials prefer to shop online as well. So we're comfortable now, with buying stuff online and using PayPal or Google Pay or whatever. The one thing I will say with businesses, it's kind of like Apple charges an additional fee for Apple Pay. If you're a business, you need a developer account, which is $99 a month. Google Pay, you can usually integrate for free. PayPal, you can usually integrate for free. So that'll be interesting moving forward to see if that hurts it. I'm not sure. I think Apple will be pretty well. They'll do okay because of their market share. But after a certain point, they can only ride that wave so long. But obviously in 2020, for local businesses, payment optimization is very important, and that's really a big one. Is e-commerce transaction with multiple payment methods and optimizing for mobile.
Right. Yeah, it's obviously the easier you can make it for a business to collect money from a customer or client, the better it's going to be. But I want to touch on a couple of things here, Ted. First of all, this BERT algorithm, which is one of the largest algorithm updates that Google has had for a while, has just been released. How much do you know about that?
I know a little bit about it. I mean, I've read, just the minor things with Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal and stuff like that. Obviously, it's a big update. Whenever they do updates, whenever Google does updates, I generally take a approach where all of my SEO is what's called white hat SEO. So it's old, tried and true techniques. Backlinking, making sure you have good content. It takes long-term work to make a good website, and it's just like building your business. You're building your business online. So when there are updates, it's not so much a big deal. I know what needs to be done anyways, but there are, certain updates. I think like the last update really hit medical and really put a lot of businesses that were kind of doing more shady medical stuff out of the running, which is great. But with BERT, I still need to know more about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think, with these updates, it really shows you what Google is trying to do. And with BERT, for the limited information that I know about it, it's really trying to understand the search query better. And I think it relates to what we were saying before with the voice searches. You're starting to see a lot more long tail searches, which are extended search phrases of usually if you go to the computer and you type something in, you might do something very broad and basic like a house cleaner, something like that. But with the voice search, you might be a little bit more detailed, and the BERT algorithm is really trying to figure out exactly what the searcher is trying to say, and is getting better at interpreting those voice searches. So I think what that means from my perspective is you really want to try and optimize for these long tail or extended phrase searches on your website, and that ultimately is through content marketing and having good content on your site.
Absolutely. So, I mean, with BERT, Google is continually making these strides toward voice search. And the conversational language, that narrative is inherently different than when you're just typing something, because you could just type, plumbers, Columbus, Ohio, or wherever you are. Whereas if you were asking that through voice, you would say like, I want to find the best plumber in Columbus, Ohio, right? That's a conversation. That's different. So that's a totally different search than the previous. And with BERT, it was really taking into account that move toward voice recognition. And Google is making big strides toward voice because it knows that it's increasing, and it's like 9.5% a year increase in voice searches. So it's constantly going to improve that, and BERT is just kind of another step in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think 1 in 5 searches right now, and that is increasing every day. It's probably moving closer to 2 in 5 searches, are local searches at least, are conducted with voice. So it's definitely something that is going to continue to increase over time. All right, I want to touch on a few other things here. Some statistics, content. The average length for a top 10 result when we look at words on a page is 2,000 words. I see a lot of websites out there that have lots of images, and we don't see as much flash anymore. Google has really frowned on the flash, so we don't like that, and we want to get rid of that if we do. But the average is 2,000, and if you want to get in the top 3, you're looking at 2,500 words on whatever page it is that is going to show up in that result. So content marketing is definitely something that we need to look deeply into. How do you get the content, Ted, from your clients to get on their web pages?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the answer is somewhat reluctantly. With many local businesses, they should focus on their product. That is really the best thing, is when you can focus on your product. That's always the greatest thing, because businesses don't often want to spend all the time on content and everything. So usually in that case, I'll just work with like blog writers and people that will actually craft pieces for the web, where we might do some interview or piece on the owner or products that they're doing. A lot of the content stuff is really like that I at least focus on is social media based. So it's updates on Instagram, Facebook, and that sort of world. That doesn't necessarily translate though into the Google side. If you're just focusing on Google optimization, I mean, to have a 2,000 word piece, you're gonna need a writer. Like, I don't see too many business owners, even when they supply me pieces, they're probably like 300 to 500 words, and that's like pushing it, because they're not writers. Like, unless you're in the trenches, the last time most people wrote anything was in college, and then they just kind of stop and they do their business, which is totally fine. But 2,000 words, that's definitely a lot. I think with local businesses and that kind of stuff, I always try and push for blogs when possible, but I know that there's still reluctance on many businesses to do that. That's why I say just do a podcast or do video or do something you like, and don't worry so hard about maybe the blog or whatever, because eventually I think Google and other companies will catch up to whatever, you love. If you've seen it like in YouTube, these people that have been making videos for years, and now they have millions of views. Like eventually the technology catches up with your passion. So just Just do what you love.
Yeah, well, that is great advice. I'm a huge proponent, obviously, of the podcast and being able to sit down and just talk out your message. Like you said, it is hard to get a business owner, a local business owner, especially, to sit down and write about their business. But if you can catch them for 30 minutes, they will talk for 30 minutes nonstop about their business because it's what they are passionate about. There are services out there. There's transcription services where you can get that conversation captured and edited, and you can get content for your website there. But I think that is, one of the starting points is just having a good interview and being able to talk at length about specific areas of your business. Now, one of the big words that I see on all the websites that are talking about Google and ranking for 2020 is branding. And I think branding is just, if you look at the local searches now, it's sometimes very hard to get on the organic listings because you have sites like Home Advisor and Yelp and Angie's List and Alignable and all these different directory websites that are showing up on the front page, and they're not really giving the local business a chance to show up organically. I've seen anywhere from 5 to even all 10 of those organic listings taken up by big brands. And I think Google really loves brands. And because they have authority and you can't really fake a brand. So I think where we're moving towards in the local market as well is trying to develop a brand for yourself by getting your business name out there as many times as you possibly can. What do you have or what can you do that would help a local business brand themselves moving into 2020?
Well, that's a great question and an interesting point that you bring up, because how I kind of relate that is I often look the other way and I say pivot. If you're a local business, the brands are going to beat you. Even if you're like a realtor, or I have a lot of businesses that are like handymen or garage door repair, or I have chimney sweeps. I have all different kinds of businesses, and so in that case, when people are looking up even like chimney sweeps, they'll see Home Advisor like at the top, right? So for them, it's really about optimizing for local. And instead, like chimney sweep near me, or say your city and then chimney sweep, stuff like that, you can place at the top of the list there. Whereas a lot of these bigger and sometimes longer tail, sometimes other words can be just dominated by brands. So I kind of look at where Google is giving local businesses more wiggle room, and that's where they should focus, because it's tough to beat out the big brands. But if you're like a realtor and you look up Columbus Homes, forget it. It's going to be Zillow all day long, or it's going to be realtor.com, or but if you are trying to focus on a specific city and then realtor, or like most home sales, you can based on your city, like you can do certain keywords and then write articles that help propel you there. So you just have to be smart about it, and don't just think I have to dominate this one big word, because that's a fool's errand, really. So be realistic in your expectations. Your, local businesses, they can still gain traction, in many other places.
Yeah, and it's hard to get businesses to business owners to really understand that what you just said there was those big keywords, like your broad keywords. It still goes with the 80-20 principle. Your 3 or 4 major keywords that you want to be ranking for is only about 20% of the overall searches. All these long tail and different keyword extensions that you might put in after the broad search are where still the majority of the clicks to your website come from. So definitely need to optimize for all that. Well, Ted, I'm sure we could talk about this all day, but we got to bring it to a close at some point. Want to give you the opportunity to let the listeners know how to get in contact with you, how to get to your website. If there's anything that you have for them that might be helpful, go ahead and let them know what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So go to cowabundant.com. That's cowabundant with a K. .com and sign up for my newsletter. I do that every month. I have one coming out, and I focus on the top questions, SEO questions from my clients, and I publish that, and people really get a kick out of that. It's also got some fun, memes and all that crazy stuff that happens. So definitely sign up for that. There's also a marketing ebook that is on my website. That's kind of focused. If you're a newer business, it would be great to download with great insight. So check out cowabundant.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Cowabundant.
Excellent, Ted. Well, I'm connected with you on all your social accounts, and I love the content that you put out. It always stops me and gets me to look at it. So I would advise anybody listening to go ahead and do that. And for myself as well, I believe very much in the interview as a starting point to get content out there. So if you are a local business and you want to be interviewed to get some content to start things off, you can contact me, Neil, that's Neil, at theauthorityarchitect.com, or you can visit theauthorityarchitect.com. Well, Ted, thank you very much for spending time with me today. I am looking forward to 2020. There's definitely a lot to be done to optimize local business websites, and I will be doing some more interviews like this, Local Business 2020, in the future. So make sure you subscribe and keep an eye out for the other ones. Ted Bigham, thanks very much for being on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.